Yeah, yeah. So he calls him Torchberry. I love it. Ah, Torchberry. Way to go, Tim. Way to go. All right. Well, headed down to the dungeon. What's the worst that could happen, eh? Hello, everyone. I'm Father Aaron. Welcome to the Dungeon Minister. So, our heroes, having taken a slight detour into arson, they have found the cave system, or, well, they think they found the cave system, which Garrick told them about, where Evalio and his werewolves have their headquarters, in a cave overlooking the lake on the western side of the hills that rise up in the middle of the Whitewood. Now, I didn't mention the name Whitewood before because, frankly, I hadn't come up with it. There was just a large forest on the map. I didn't think to name it, but of course, a patch of forest that big is going to require a name. I mean, it covers a huge, huge swath of the map. It's going to need a name, so I started casting about for one, and I decided on Whitewood. So let's just pretend that all the pictures I've posted of this forest involve birch trees. That works. I would also ask you to remember that this cave was described by Garrick as hidden, really hard to find, and the players didn't have much trouble finding it. So, is this the right cave? Was Garrick lying? Why would he lie that way? Why would he lie in that direction? Anyhow, they enter the cave. Just inside the entrance, it very quickly becomes worked stone, a dungeon, a proper dungeon. You may remember they're only about 15 or 20 feet above the level of the lake when they enter, which means as they go down, they're getting close to the water table, which means that at the bottom of the stairs they find a flooded portion. Now, it's only a few inches deep in water, so they proceed, but it's wet and it's unpleasant. It also disguises a major problem. The water has eroded the earth beneath the flagstones of the dungeon floor, and a portion of it has collapsed. They can't see this, however, because their light simply reflects off of the surface. They can't see deep enough down to know that there's a major pit awaiting them, and Bob Johnny falls in. Touchberry always leads the party because he has the most hit points and because, well, the ones behind him can shoot over his head. Anyway, he leads, but he veers off to the left, and we're doing this with miniatures, so I have them place it on the board where they are walking. He walks off to the left, Bob Johnny is going to go to the right, and he falls into the water. Falling into water while wearing plate mail armor is never a good thing, but fortunately for Bob Johnny, it's not very deep. He plunges down and scrambles back to the surface, and his friends are immediately there to heave him out onto the solid floor of the dungeon. However, falling in has awoken something.
Hey, play the cue! Play the cue! Oh, sorry.
What did it awaken? For that, we turn to the creature catalog. Thanks again to Ryan for that, because it's become a treasure trove. The creature catalog and the water weird. Water weirds are these really cool creatures. They're not a water elemental, that's something else, but they're formed of the water, and they rise up out of it and try to pull people in and drown them. They try to hold them under. The monster description says once they have someone, and there's a saving throw to see when it attacks, there's a saving throw, and if you miss the saving throw, it pulls you in. Once it has someone under, it ignores everyone else and just holds that person underneath. And they have to make saving throws or they go unconscious. And if they're unconscious for 3 rounds, they die. Very cool monster, and this is what is awoken. Now, they're getting Bob Johnny back up onto the surface and, making sure he's okay when it rises up and attacks. I don't have a mini for water weirds. I don't even know if they make minis for water weirds, but hot glue does a pretty good job. Anyhow, it attacks the nearest person, which, as we had placed the minis on the dungeon tiles, was Fleetwood. Boom! It wraps around him and pulls him toward the water. He makes a saving throw. No, he doesn't make it. He misses his save and is pulled into the water. Down he goes. Now, his companions were not idle during this time. They see the thing attacking Fleetwood and they attack it. Here's the thing, though. The monster description also tells us that edged weapons only do 1 point of damage to a water weird. Doesn't matter what you roll. And I had them roll. This was fun. I had them roll for damage so that they would think this thing was just monstrously tough because they're taking 1 hit point off at a time. At any rate, Touchberry attacks and does 1 point of damage. Faux Fire attacks and she hits. It's not actually that difficult to hit a water weird. She hits and does 1 point of damage. Bob Johnny launches Magic Missile, his usual first strike. Magic Missile. He launches that, and I decide that that's going to do full damage because it's not really an edged weapon. It's not a physical arrow. It's a magical attack. So it's going to do its full damage. This ends up being, and he rolls a 4, so it does 5 points of damage. This ends up being the most damage the water weird takes in one blow, the entire battle, of course, because they all have edged weapons, so they're going to do 1 hit point at a time. What I love about this combat is that it had this real sense of urgency, because, Fleetwood is underwater. How long is he going to be able to hold out? The way I understand this mechanic, every round of combat, the victim, the one who's being held under, makes a save versus death ray, the catch-all of the saving throws, makes a save versus death ray, and if they make the save, they're not unconscious. If they miss the save, they are. This is essentially, when are you going to run out of oxygen? When are you going to pass out from a lack of oxygen? Not die, because there's 3 rounds after you're unconscious, 3 rounds before you die. But when will you run out of oxygen? So I take it to be you're struggling and, first of all, how much air did you gulp in before it pulled you in? Second of all, as you struggle, maybe this round you get your head up and you gulp more air before you're pushed back down again. So you're going to last a couple more rounds, right? So it gives that sort of potential. Also remember, a round of combat is 6 seconds. So people can hold their breath for a lot longer than that. A lot longer than we think we can, actually. So it's not immediate death when you go underwater or anything. Anyhow, this is what we're doing. And it's about 3 rounds in, and Fleetwood fails his save, right? Meanwhile, his friends are attacking. Now, I give them a -2 penalty to hit, because once the water weird has its victim, it goes back down in and holds him under, right? Well, how are you going to find a monster made out of water in the water? It doesn't say anything about this in the monster description, but I give them a -2 penalty because how are you going to distinguish this, right? Also, how are they going to hit the water weird and not hit Fleetwood, right? It's holding him down. Eventually they decide that if they attack on top of Fleetwood, above him, and pull up short of hitting him, well, then they can hit the water weird because it must be holding him there, right? So this means no arrow fire from Faux Fire. She's not going to be able to shoot arrows at the thing because, well, she'll hit Fleetwood. So it's all bladed weapons. And the combat continues, and they're really, really frustrated because they keep hitting it, right? It's not that, even with the -2, it's not that difficult to hit. But they're doing 1 point of damage. So they're thinking this must be the most powerful monster ever, right? And it goes on, and it gets increasingly desperate once Fleetwood fails his save. Once he fails his save, we're really in trouble, right? Because he's got 3 rounds. Now, they don't know he has 3 rounds, but they can see that he's stopped fighting. They can see that he's stopped struggling. So the table gets real tense. Did he die? right? And I don't announce it. I just say Fleetwood goes limp. So Fleetwood, you're not struggling anymore. And they're like, is he dead? And then they really pile it on, right? Like they're ready to jump in. Touchberry is ready to jump in there to fight him, which would have been a bad idea because then the weird would have attacked him. Now, Fleetwood is unconscious, but the weird doesn't let go yet. It doesn't let go till he's dead. Okay? They keep attacking. They do not kill it. They eventually get it down to a point where I roll a morale check and it fails, right? It can tell this isn't going to turn out well for it. Even if it does kill this one, it's going to die too if it keeps it up. I don't know. It was about 7 or 8 hit points from dead at that point. They had been hacking away at it for some time. So it knows it's not in great shape, so it slithers away, and Fleetwood bobs to the surface. They yank him out, they get him up onto the ground, and, like what would... Did they have life-saving? Did they have, the respiratory, I don't know at that point. But he eventually coughs some water up, spits a whole bunch of water out, hacking and wheezing, gets to his knees, and whew, he's alive. Now, there's a great deal of treasure down there, but, yeah, not worth it. Not worth it. That'll come back later. So Fleetwood has a chance to recover. They give him a few minutes. They get as far away from the water as they can. He has some time to recover, and they check out the rest of the room. The dominant feature in the room, aside from the enormous puddle, the dominant feature in the room is a statue. Yes, handsome fellow. The statue is actually a little figure. It's a WWF or WWE, I don't know the difference, wrestler. The little metal figure that I got at the dollar store, right? It's just this figure that I spray painted with a primer, and I was going to paint him with stone texture in the whole 9 yards, but I ran out of time, so I thought, okay, he's white marble. It's a white marble statue in the middle of the room. That'll do. And it stands there, arms folded like this. Okay, what are we gonna have to fight that thing too? We just fought a puddle of water. Are we gonna have to fight a statue as well? No, it's not moving. It didn't attack when we came in. Wonder if we touch it, if it'll move. Why would we want to make it move? Leave it alone, right? And so they're talking about the statue. And at some point, someone references the thing directly and speaks to it like, you just stay right there. Just looks up and you just stay right where you are. And the statue says, Ask? The mouth of the statue did not move. They heard the voice sort of just echo in the room, but clearly it comes from the statue. Ask? Oh, ask. It's some sort of knowledge thing. It's some sort of oracle. It can tell us things, all right? Which is kind of true. This statue, on a 1d6, 1 to 5, it will lie to you. It will tell you a flat-out lie. You roll a 6, or the DM rolls a 6, and it will tell the truth about anything. Okay, well, ask. What should we ask it? They somehow get the idea that they only get one question, all right? They somehow get the idea there's only one question. And instead of asking, are the werewolves here? Is this a Volu's hideout? Any of those questions, they ask, who is Uther? Who is Uther? Uther? What? Do you know Uther? Like, I, as the DM, am scrambling. Uther? Who's Uther? And I have to ask them, where did you get the question, where did you get the name Uther? And my middle guy, Touchberry, says, well, I have it written down here. Uther. Who is Uther? I'm like, who is Uther? And I'm scrambling, and then I remember, way back, in the journey to Hrothgar's Eyes, when they get to Hrothgar's Eyes, when they get to Hrothgar's old fortress, they find an old journal, an old sort of log book, and in it is written an account of Uther coming and, making trouble again and throwing a huge rock. And as they went up the mountain, they found a huge rock in the middle of an open space. They found this huge boulder there that didn't match any of the rocks around it that just seemed to be planted there. And that it missed the men. No one was hurt, but it unnerved everybody, right? Uther, who's Uther? It was a giant. It's a giant that I invented just as a part of the background. Like there was this giant who came around all the time and was bothering them, and I gave him a name, Uther, right? So Uther, who's Uther? It's the most random question ever. So I rolled the dice, and by gum, it rolled the 6.
Uther was a great frost giant who lived in the time of Hrothgar. He was friend to dragons and werewolves, and enemy to men and elves.
Okay, Uther was. They really pick up on the past tense. Was. He's dead. We probably don't have to worry about Uther anymore. No, you never had to worry about Uther. It was a bit in a... Oh, anyway, so they took this question, and then they get this idea that they don't have any other questions. They can't ask anything else. So they don't bother, and they leave the room. Which, okay, interesting use of a question, but there it is. Players will do. On they go. They walk into another circular room. Very cautiously, very carefully, checking the floor this time. They walk in. It is empty. There are 2 exits, one to the south and one to the north. They stop and they listen. To the north, they can hear water, the flow of water. And their experience with the water weird, they don't want to go near water just yet. They go through the south passage. They enter a large room, and they're just beginning to register some shapes scuttling about in the darkness. They can't tell what they are, but they can see something is there when, wham! Something lands on Fleetwood from above. These are giant geckos, and they've left one of their number on guard duty on the ceiling. They can, hang from the ceiling, and he drops down on top of Fleetwood and bites. But I roll a 7, so he misses. Fleetwood yanks his head out of the way just as the thing takes a chomp at him. All right, so battle on, okay? First thing is to get this thing off of Fleetwood's back, and his companions behind him. Fofire was behind at the time, and I think Bob Johnny was back there too, because he didn't want to go first anymore after having fallen in the water. Bob Johnny and Fofire yank this thing off of him, and Fleetwood casts Sleep. They all go down. Just barely. No, when you cast Sleep, you roll to see how many hit dice are going to be taken down. Well, the geckos are 3 hit dice monsters. There are 4 of them, so we got 12 hit dice worth of creatures. He rolls, and he gets like a 14 or something. So just barely takes them all down. Well, that was handily avoided. And now they make a decision, which I think is the right decision, but they may pay for later. They decide not to kill the giant geckos as they sleep. I mean, it would be an automatic thing, right? Just go along with a dagger and slit their throats. Easy as pie. Really, really disgusting pie. Well, they decide not to, anyhow. They decide not to cut the throats, not to kill the geckos, but to just let them sleep. This goes back to their whole thing of if it's an animal, and it's just doing its animal thing, they don't blame it, right? They will fight the gecko if it's attacking them. They'll fight a wild boar. They'll fight a bear if it's attacking them, a wolf, whatever. But if it's an animal, it's not like a monster animal, they're not going to hound it. They're not going to kill it if they don't have to, which I applaud them for that, I have to say. They may pay for this one, though. So they leave the geckos alive. They just root through the room, looking to see if they have anything, and they do. They've got some coins, they've got a few gems. Nothing massive. They check out the rest of the room and search for secret doors. They find nothing. There's nothing to find. And on they go. Back into the circular room, the sort of hub room. Okay. Are we ready for more flowing water? Yeah, all right. Let's go. Through they go, to a room in the center of which stands a fountain. I realized after I did that roundup of terrain how much terrain I hadn't used, so I'm using it now. Here is the little well that I made, in the center of which there's actually a fountain, right, that sticks up from the middle, a sort of decorative piece in the middle, from which water is pouring out into the fountain. Oh, okay. Is there anything in the fountain? They watch the water very carefully. No, there's nothing that you can see living in the fountain. I want to look in there. You look in and you see gold coins. Lots of them. The bottom is just full of gold coins. Okay. Don't take them. Don't touch them. Nobody take the coins. If we take the coins, something awful is going to happen. Well, not strictly speaking taking the coins, no. The coins are actually pyrite. From through the water you can't tell, but if they pulled them out, they have enough experience with gold, they'd discover they're pyrite, they're not real gold coins. But if they are going to gather the coins, and if they all went in gathering the coins, and going around gathering them, and their focus was on gathering those coins, they would not notice, and they would step in the green slime that's on the floor on the other side of the fountain. This is the trap I had set. It's not really a trap like someone set a trap, but it would be something that would snare them if they put all their focus on that treasure. But they decide that it must be cursed or something, it must be a trigger for a trap, which is sort of true, so they don't take it. And that means that they're not focused on the fountain, so they do notice the green slime. I mean, they're going around. They say, we'll check out the rest of the room. Say, okay. And as Bob Johnny turns the corner around the pond, as he goes around the fountain, there it is, plain as day, sitting on the floor, green slime, and it starts moving toward them. But a green slime's movement rate is pathetic, right? I mean, it hardly moves at all. So what do? Well, Touchberry gets up on the rim of the fountain with a flask of oil and pours it all over the green slime. He's earning his nickname, Torchberry. Oh, Tim, that's fabulous. Torchberry. Anyway, he torches the green slime and it dies a hideous death, well-deserved. So there's the kind of monster they will kill outright, no matter whether it's hurt them or not. It wanted to. It wanted to. All right. Nothing else in here. They check for secret doors. There are none. We'll move on. They head further into the hill, which is, I guess, to the east they go. They come into a room here that appears to be empty. There's a few odds and ends in the corners, just rubble kinds of things, the detritus which would accumulate over the centuries. But what's fascinating about this room is that the walls are covered in writing. It is an ancient, ancient language that they don't recognize. If they had read languages, they could read it, but none of them have that spell, and even if they did, they probably wouldn't have memorized it for today. So, well, they're out of luck there. But they look at it, and they're studying the language. They're studying these words. They say, I want to look at it and see if we can figure it out. Okay. As they do so, from the north, shuffle in 3 hideous ghouls. Yeah, ghouls are fun. Ghouls are fun because elves are immune to their paralysis, right? And they can take damage from the hit, but they're immune to the paralysis. So whenever ghouls show up, what do? Elves to the front, everyone else back. Shoot arrows, from behind, as long as you're not going to hit us. Only do it when you have a clear shot, which I have to say the minis do help with. Only do it when you have a clear shot, but stay out of the line of fire because you guys, you don't want to get paralyzed by these ghouls, right? So the elves go forward to face off against these 3 ghouls, while Fofire and Touchberry hang back and occasionally lob an arrow in when there's a clear shot. This is also a trap of sorts, because if this combat goes more than 3 rounds, and with 3 ghouls it's going to, if it goes more than 3 rounds, 2 more ghouls come from the east. They enter the room and they head straight for Touchberry and Fofire. So here we are, Bob, Johnny, and Fleetwood engaged in combat, boom, 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 with these ghouls, and behind them 2 more shuffle in and go right for the halfling and the human. By this point, one of the ghouls was down. Fleetwood runs over to intercept these other 2. He can't get there in time. He gets one of them. The other one attacks faux fire and hits. Okay, faux fire, roll your save. Oh, whew. She saved against paralysis. She is not paralyzed. She is terrified, however, because why would you not be? And the fight is on. This actually ends up being the main fight over in the corner because the three up front, they had less hit points. When I rolled up, I just rolled all 5 together. And I took the strongest 2 and I put them in the east chamber. We'll see why in a bit. The other 3 in the north chamber. So those 3, although there's more of them, and so that increases the number of attacks, which is one of the dungeon minister doctrines, that more attacks equals more danger. Better, more than more hit points, generally. They do go down easier. So those are what being picked off, and Bob Johnny's holding his own. And, they're hitting him, and he's not paralyzed, and the ghoul's like... Anyway, he's fighting those off and doing a decent job of holding them, although he does get into a place where he can't hit for the life of him. He's occasionally getting hit, but mostly not. He can't make contact at all for some reason. Anyway, there he is. He's at least keeping them busy, and the big fight ends up over on the other end of the room because, again, Touchberry and Faux Fire could be paralyzed. So there's this whole dance of trying to keep them out of range of the ghoul, and the ghoul is going after them, right? One of them is occupied with Fleetwood, and that one goes down relatively soon, and then Fleetwood can turn his attention and help his friends. Although I think by the time he turns to help them, they have defeated their ghoul. They have gotten it and killed it. So then it's just the ones with Bob Johnny, or one, because he's taken out another one. Fleetwood runs over, but my little guy, he likes to deliver the coup de grace, right? He likes to deliver the killing blow, so he says, no, don't help me. So everyone stands around and watches Bob Johnny fight a ghoul until he finally connects and takes its head off. He's got an axe, right? So, whoomph, down it goes. Oy, Gewalt, that was bad. All right. Any more? Let's watch the doors. Any more? Nothing's coming. What do you want to do? No, it's no sense searching them for treasure. They don't carry treasure. If they have any, it's some tomb that they're guarding. Ooh, let's see if they're guarding a tomb. They go north first, for the first creatures came out of, and they find there a long room. Again, there's writing on the walls. There's a bit less of it. It's just up near the top. All the way around the room, though. And they see 3 sarcophagi with the lids tossed off and broken. This is where they were buried. And they look into those sarcophagi and they find there some treasure, mostly copper, not a few thousand copper. There's some silver, there's a few small gems, nothing huge. But, hey, it's not nothing, right? So they gather that all up. All right, I wonder what's in the other one. They head over there. This room is far more elaborately appointed. The writing here is all over the place, and there are decorations on the wall that make it look like a forest, that make it look like a paradise of sorts. This is the room of the high priest and priestess of whatever religion this was. The other 3 were lesser individuals. So that's why they had less hit points. When I rolled it up, I wanted the strongest 2 to be in here. And so they're oh, wow, there's this beautiful tomb and 2 sarcophagi open. They look in there. No treasure at all. They were expecting a bigger payout, right? Something. No, nothing. Oh no, hang on. You see in the corner there's a little glint. Well, what is it? You pull it out. It's a brooch. It's a pin for holding a cloak closed. Ugh, but it's a leering, horrid face. This ghastly image with amber eyes. Okay. Well, we can melt it down. It's worth something. Toss it in the bag. Nothing else in here, huh? Well, check for secret doors. Aha. There is one. You find it. On the south wall, there is a secret door. Oh, great. Let's open it. Doesn't open. It's locked. Lock. Oh, ow. Knock. Bob Johnny casts his knock spell, and there is the soft knocking sound, and then a click and a snap, and the door moves a little, and they push it open. Excellent! Maybe this is where the treasure is. In they go. They find another circular room, and they decide, we'll just go right in. But Touchberry says no, no, because they see across the room is another statue. It's another wrestler. I have no idea who these people are, but, there's another statue. This one, standing on a plinth, surrounded by treasure, clay pots full of coins, all sorts of nice, beautiful, shiny things. Oh, let's go! But Touchberry says, nope, too easy, too easy. There's something wrong here. And Bob Johnny feeds off of that. No, I'm not going. So my eldest says, well, fine, I'll go. So Fleetwood walks across the room and steps on a pressure plate. Right in the center of the room, there is a pressure plate that's unavoidable if you're walking straight toward, well, you could have gone around it, but if you're going straight toward the treasure, boom, right on it. And on either side of the room, the north and south sides, there are small holes out of which fire 2 darts. Now, saving throw. Oh, he makes it. Just as the darts are flying through the air, Fleetwood senses them. His spidey sense is going off, and he pulls back. And I say, right in front of your nose, 2 darts whistle through the air. You can feel the wind of them. You can actually feel the fletching on one of the feathers grazes your nose as it flies past. And then they clatter helplessly to the floor. Okay. I'm going to get down on my hands and knees and press that plate again. Is that it? Is that it? So he gets down on his hands and knees to press the plate. And here I wish I'd done something like a blade shoots up from the floor, But he gets down and presses the plate. And okay, you can feel this stone is a very thin piece of stone. You can feel it move under your hands. But whatever mechanism it was has shot its only, shot. It's done. Okay. I want to go look at those darts. Okay, you go over to one side, you pick one up. The tip of it is barbed and covered with a sickly black fluid, a sickly black, greasy substance. This was poisoned. Ugh. I put it in my bag. Why? Why are you saving a poisoned dart? Okay. You better be careful when you reach into your bag next time. Make sure you... Anyway. All right. So they actually pick up both poisoned darts. Fleetwood keeps one. I can't remember who takes the other. Probably Touchberry. At any rate, in they go to the statue to see what they have to see. Well, pots of coins. Great. Well, let's load up. You grab the first pot, and instantly there is a grinding sound, and the statue on the plinth moves and glares down at you with amber eyes and the same hideous face as the brooch. This was their god. It punches out with 2 hard metal fists. Boom! And Fleetwood and Bob Johnny both get a hit, and they fall back with the force of it. It steps down off of the plinth. This living statue is bronze. Ignore the color. Again, I didn't have time to paint it. And this one, I say, it's a bronze statue. I just didn't have time to paint it. Pretend that it's bronze color, okay? It's a bronze statue. It's hollow inside where dwells a fire, which it can belch forth 3 times a day for an extra damage. It's a 1d12 damage. It can do belching out fire. All right. So after the players do their first response attacks, right? A couple of them hit, a couple of them miss, and they don't do any serious damage. This thing shoots forth fire and sweeps 3 of them. The only one to escape it is Faux Fire because she does ranged attacks. She usually hangs back a little bit, so she's usually not, right with the others. The other 3, though, all get hit, and they take like 8 points of damage, and it's a pretty hefty blow in one shot there. Oh my goodness! And they come back in the attack. The fight is pretty good. It goes back and forth and back. It is, not the worst they've ever had. It doesn't get them, anywhere in desperate range toward death. But one of them, I think, is Bob Johnny, who's already been hit a few times, and Fleetwood. I think both end up, the elves both end up in the mid-teens, which isn't desperate times, but it's it's starting to get like, oh look, we're down in the teens now. So it's not a huge fight, but it's pretty cool. In the end, Bob Johnny has hacked into it in the side with his axe. He didn't bother with Brasingus because what's fire going to do to a statue that can belch out fire? He chops into it from the side, and I say a gash opens up, and you can see flame leaking out of the side of this thing, right? And Fleetwood has slashed it on the other side, and so there's more of it here, a big gash on its other side, and flame licking out. So Touchberry goes in for the kill shot, right? He goes in right in the center. He stabs into the thing. And so you open up the front, the belly, between the two gashes that your companions made, you open up that little bit, and the thing flops over backward, just hinged on the bit of metal that's holding it together on the back. It flops over backward, and fire shoots up, and then dies. Oh, that was cool. And for some reason, Bob Johnny says, oh, it's hollow inside? Can I put it on like armor? They begin to load up the treasure in here and see what they've got. There's a lot of gold, there's a lot of silver, there's some copper. It's a pretty good, there's even some platinum in here and some gems. They decide that it is now safe. They generally avoid taking the eyes out of statues because bad things happen. But they decide it's now safe. Pop those ambers out of the eyes, they get those as well. In the treasure, they also find a pair of, metal gloves? If I say the word gauntlets, am I giving away too much? A pair of gauntlets. Ooh. Put them on. Okay, so Touchberry wants to put them on. I say, well, they're a bit big for you, but you slide your hands in, and although they wobble on your hands, suddenly you just feel so strong. Gauntlets of ogre power. Now, I've done the math. I have. And of the characters, given where their strength scores are now, the best use of these gauntlets would actually be to Faux-Fire, because her strength is the lowest, and gauntlets of ogre power give you an 18 strength. So she would see the greatest increase, right? Touchberry would be, in a sense, the worst use for these gauntlets, which is why I made them too big for him. Because he's already at a 16 strength, so he'd increase 2. Bob Johnny's at 14. 14 would be a decent increase. Now, the thief can't actually use them. First of all, it's metal armor. It would interfere with lock-picking and finding traps and all of the things that require sensitive fingers, climbing and whatnot. So while it would be good for attacking, she'd have to, if a battle was beginning, she'd have to get them out and put them on before she went into combat, right? So that's not going to work. So it's one of the other three. Plus, my wife is never really greedy with the treasures, right? She's like, give it to one of the boys, that's fine. The bow was an exception because it was clearly meant for Faux-Fire. Anyway, so they have to decide which of the three is going to get this. Oh, Touchberry wants them. He really wants gauntlets of ogre power. But I have something else planned for him. There's another goodie coming for Touchberry, and Bob Johnny really wants them as well. So I say you don't need to decide this now, right? You're still in the dungeon. You don't need to decide it at this moment. What are you going to do right now? Well, it's pretty late in the day. They're all exhausted. They've all taken some decent damage. They decide they actually just want to rest. Okay, where are you going to rest? Well, we couldn't do any better than right here. I mean, there's nothing dangerous in this room anymore, we don't think. And it has a door. And we can wizard lock that door. We'll be perfectly safe in here. Yeah, probably. I do sort of wonder about how much air is in this room and whether or not it will be airtight once they close the door. Ancient tombs aren't going to be airtight, are they? They'll be fine. They'll be fine. Yeah, you can spend the night in the tomb. All right. They close the secret door, and Fleetwood casts wizard lock on it and locks it. And that's where they spend the night. The disagreement about the gauntlets of ogre power continues in real life for some time. It may not be over still. At any rate, that's where they're going to spend the night. They do have some concerns. First of all, the geckos are still alive, so they're going to have to get past them. Hopefully the geckos will just stay in their room. They're not going to stay in their room. But anyway, they're hoping they'll just stay in the room and they can slip past. They also have to pass the water weird. They have to pass that water weird. Hopefully, if they just skirt the puddle and don't touch it, it was Bob Johnny falling in that disturbed it last time. Hopefully they can get past. I'd kind of like them to fight it because there is a good deal of treasure in the bottom of that. And without it, we're not going to level up. Anyway, they could skirt around that and get out. Fine, fine. But where's Avalio? Where are the werewolves? This clearly was not the hideout of the werewolves. The water weird, the geckos, the green slime, these ghouls. Clearly this was not where the werewolves were staying. Where is it? Where are the werewolves, and do they know we're here?